Hi, this is Sharon Colvin, and this is week 6 of Teen Services 101. We're going to be wrapping up, doing some review, and talking about implementation. All right. So they changed the operating systems on all our computers, so bear with me if things get weird. They updated it, of course, the day before Thanksgiving, which is, of course, the perfect time to update software. So it's been a little crazy around here. So I'm going to just go through really quickly kind of a review of what we've done and what we've talked about. And if you have questions, comments, things you've discovered, please speak up. So week 2 was about collections. We talked a lot about weeding and where to find good teen materials. And you guys came up with a wonderful list of resources. We talked about our small spaces and really defining our collections in terms of where does the children's collection end, where does the teen collection start, and how to split up and define our collections. There are a lot of resources out there, and it's important to take into consideration how those resources choose the materials that they're recommending or not recommending. And to realize that a lot of these reviews are just written by one person, and that person is just like you and me, and so it's just one opinion. But we are really lucky in Vermont. We have the 3 big book awards, and a lot of thought and time goes into those book awards. So even if you have a very small budget, we can at least recommend 15 high school titles for you every year that aren't to be missed. I think the number one take home from all of you guys was talking to the teens about what they want, especially when it comes to graphic novels. I know I struggle with graphic novels a lot. Every community is a little bit different in terms of whether they like American comics or whether they like manga, and whether you want to have an entire series or part of a series, and or whether you want magazines. And so a lot of that has to do with talking to the teens and really getting some input from them. Anything else? Did I miss anything? Any comments? All right. Next, we talked about programs. I pulled out some of the things that were on the Pinterest page. Don't forget that resource page that I've been sending you, I will keep updating it, and it will be permanent on the website, so you can keep going back to it as much as you like. These are some of the cute ideas that were on the Pinterest page. Blackout poetry, if you've never done it, is really, really fun. Some of you have mentioned using discarded books, and this is one of the fabulous things you can do with discarded books. We also talked a lot about bleach gel, and on the Pinterest page there's a recipe for making your own bleach gel, and of course you can buy the pens and have lots of fun with that. And I just love this over here. My teens in my last couple of jobs would have loved this. It's a little rock that says "Turn Me Over," and it's all nicely decorated, and you flip it over and it says, "You just took orders from a rock," which I just think they would find hilarious, which is good stuff. And the little yarn octopus. One time, I'm not a knitter. I don't have the patience for it, but I can make a really, really rockin' puff ball. And I taught the kids how to make puff balls one time, and we gave them googly eyes and names, and they just had a blast. It was hysterical. And also, there's an Etsy store out there that sells little pet puff balls, and they call them butt freckles, which of course the teens thought was hysterical. And so they made their own little butt freckles, and they gave them to people, which, I mean, yeah. Quirky. The word quirky came up in some of your assignments, and I think you're absolutely right. You can take these little assignments that are these little programs that are so simple, and just add a little quirk to them. Something, you know, from popular culture, something from the media, or just a goofy joke, or retro. Absolutely, Thad. And you never know. Like, it's how cootie catchers or fortune tellers will be popular till the end of time. We just call them by different names, and they love them. This I thought was cute too, homemade stress balls. I just think you don't even have to call them stress balls. Look at those faces. I think they're adorable. And then candy sushi is my go-to. I've never had it fail, ever. And even adults like candy sushi. We talked a lot about outreach, and you guys had some awesome ideas, especially working with the schools. The schools can be tough, and we talked a lot about that. Here in Vermont, there are a lot of organizations that you can collaborate with. A lot of you guys talked about some of the ski resorts, the recreation departments, some local businesses, farms, restaurants, things like that. And I think you have a really good idea for who out there you might be able to sweet talk into helping you with. And actually, a lot of you guys had really good ideas for partnering with people to improve your spaces, which I was pretty impressed with. And that's a really good kind of double whammy you can put into effect, where you're improving the space, but you're also partnering with somebody in the community, maybe giving them a little bit of a boost. Maybe you can advertise for them, give them a little community cred, and getting some free or cheap work done in your library, which is always fabulous. So I think you guys are on a roll with that. We also talked about space and marketing. If you haven't seen this right here, this has been going around social media for a while. I have mixed feelings about it. It kind of depends on your library. It's a way to kind of guide teens to those delicate areas of your nonfiction collection without making them ask for things. And it kind of depends on your kids and how big your nonfiction collection is and whether it's integrated with the adult collection or not. But it's something to think about. It definitely doesn't need to be a big sign like this for your libraries. It could be something small. But it's a way for kids to be able to help themselves and not be embarrassed about looking for some of these topics. Oh yeah, Wendy, back on the partnerships, partnering with other libraries. Absolutely. You absolutely should be partnering with other libraries, especially if you're in an area where there are other libraries kind of nearby. You can do things like block booking performers. You can do things like maybe collaborating with your collection a little bit. You can do things, you can do all kinds of stuff. And it's important to be able, we're all part of the same community, essentially. And it's a good idea to talk to people. So these are some of the other ideas about space that I thought were really funny. Like this little tape mark on the ground in front of a dying for a great mystery display. How hysterical is that? And this goes back to that idea of being quirky and kind of weird in the teen area. You have freedom in the teen area that you don't have other places in the library. You can be a little, crazy, and it doesn't have to be polished and perfect. This too, the Nyan Cat, is hilarious. This is made of Post-it notes. And I've seen on social media a lot of people doing Post-it note art. And actually, it goes really well with the Minecraft thing that kids are obsessed with. And so you can make kind of Minecraft type creatures or buildings and create a whole city if you have a little bit of wall space and a few Post-it notes. It's good fun. It's not something, you would do with adults, but that's okay. So one of the things that kept coming up in assignments and our discussions is small ways to make a difference. Now, the Search Institute has put together lots of information. Unfortunately, most of it costs money. I happen to have a couple of their signs here, and I pulled out some things for you. They talk a lot about community support being one of the keys to being a successful adult or a successful teenager. But these are some of the things that we talked about, ways to make a difference. And I want to make sure that you guys know the discussion this week is about failure and success. What does it mean to be successful? And somebody, I don't remember who it was, posted that just trying a program is a success. And yes, that's brilliant. It's absolutely true. Just the fact that you're trying something is fabulous. It's success. Check that off your list. You get a couple of kids to show up, you can have a party. That's fantastic. And the same thing with your personal interactions with the teens. Getting a teen to say hello to you in some cases is a major miracle. And that's something that you should totally, you should be very proud of. So these are some of the very small things that you guys do. And I want to make sure that you guys give yourselves credit for all of this stuff, because it's not always easy. And especially with teenagers, not everyone in the community or in their daily lives are doing these things. So these are some small things you can do, super easy. Even if you have a million things going on, they can make a huge difference to the kids. Number one, learn their names. Now, I'm terrible with names. You know this probably. I can't remember people's names to save my life, but I try. And at the very least, I can give them a nickname, or remember something about them. So remembering a small detail about them is another thing, whether it's the fact that they like science fiction, or the fact that their favorite color is blue, or maybe their hair color changed, or maybe, they got new shoes, whatever it is. Noticing something and remembering something about them is a huge thing. It's like, ooh, you noticed me. And we all know how good that feels. Well, imagine you're an awkward teenager. It's even better. Saying hello. Not everyone says hello to teenagers. A lot of people ignore them. Say hello, smile, make eye contact. All these things are going to make a huge difference. And I'm not trying to be condescending and telling you that you aren't doing these things. All I'm saying is that these things are huge deals, especially when you're dealing with teenagers. Listening to their stories, their goofy stories, is also a huge thing, because not everyone does. And if you can listen to them and maybe even remember some of them, then that is a huge gift you can give somebody. And the last thing, and this is something I really want you to remember, you need to be yourself. So I saw a speaker once a long time ago when I was first at a library school, and he said that the best gift you could give teenagers was to own your inner freak. And I thought, that is the strangest sentence I've ever heard. But you know what? He was right. The biggest gift that you can give kids is to be weird and to own it. Because what you're teaching them is that being weird is okay, and that you can be a successful adult and be weird. And that gives them something to strive for. Because when you're a teenager and you're trying to fit in and you're trying to do everything right and you're trying to avoid criticism and you're trying to be, in these cliques and ridiculous standards that society sets up for them, having an adult in your life who's like, hey, yo, I like to read and I'm proud of it. And, sometimes I play Minecraft too, and it's fantastic. And, being weird and being awkward and making mistakes and owning it is a really, really big gift to these kids. So I think all of us are totally capable of doing it in all our weird ways. And that's huge. Oh, look, Wendy says did you find a free one? A downloadable one? I was looking this morning and I couldn't find it. Yeah, this is the developmental relationships framework, which is good. It's not as good as the ways you show you care, which is hanging in my office. You know where you can get them? If you know Amy McMullen from Heartland, she does workshops on this. And if you're interested, she will come and talk to your staff about this and give you a whole bunch of paperwork, which is fantastic. But yeah, these are really interesting things about, developmental relationships. It's a little more reading, but it is interesting, and I'll send this to you guys. The Search Institute does great work. So I want you to remember, we talk a lot about what's success and what's failure. It takes a lot of effort to get teens in the library. And there is that, 7-to-1 correlation. So for every one teen you get in, it's equivalent to the work it takes to get 7 preschoolers in the library. But also, your social interactions, they carry more weight. And because you are an important adult in their life. And sometimes they're a lot harder. So getting eye contact from some kids is just impossible. They don't look anyone in the eye. And so, you keep saying hi and smiling, and then one day they give you eye contact, you jump up and down. That's a miracle. That's amazing. I mean, not in front of them. You don't want to scare them. But it's a really, really big deal. So one of the things I want to bring home, in our last gathering for teen services is to give yourself credit for what you do. Any interaction with teens is going to be hard. And in some I mean, not all kids, obviously, some are really easy, but some are hard. And you have to realize that not everyone likes teens. And so if you can be the one person in their lives who does like them and who embraces them a little bit, it's a huge deal, and it's not to be discounted. So I really, really want you to take that into consideration. And I'll send you all this stuff. So now's your time. How's it going? How are your assignments going? Anything causing you angst? Questions, comments, ideas, things you want to share with the group?
I really love the assignments.
I'm really excited.
Sorry, I think two of you tried to talk at once. How about Wendy first?
Okay. I'm really excited because I'm hoping to start our team program today.
Yay!
with decorating for the holidays.
That's fabulous.
I went in yesterday. I was like, hey guys, what do you think about, maybe doing the decorations this year? And they all seemed really receptive, which was kind of surprising for me.
Good.
Because they're all guys.
Oh,
that's great.
Yeah. I got their attention away from Minecraft long enough to get, oh yeah, that sounds cool.
Hey.
So we're going to take our discards and we're going to do some fun stuff.
That's excellent. I can't wait to hear about it. Definitely.
Plus I'll have big, strong boys to carry up all those discards for me.
That's going to be excellent. I'm really happy for you. I hope it goes well.
Me too.
All right, Tony, did you have something?
I've really loved the assignments because they've really made me focus in on different issues at the library and think about how I would handle them if it were totally my decision.
Yeah.
Which it isn't always.
I know.
But it's a good place. I've got some good things to bring to the trustees and to bring to my director and try. So I'm excited.
Good. Yeah, my original thought for this course was I wanted to give you guys the space and the time to really create something that you could take to the trustees or to your director and say, this is my plan. This is what I want to do. And look, I thought it all out. So that it's not just like some idea that you had in the shower. It's actually a well thought out plan. You can, not that there's anything wrong with ideas in the shower, but sometimes you have to do a little more convincing. And then once you flip that framework, you can really build in kind of a culture of course we're going to do something with the teens. It takes time though. It definitely takes time. All right, so I'm glad that this is focus things for you. Let's see. Okay, so Nicole says she had her annual review yesterday, and YA was definitely on the top of the list for next year's performance. Yay! That's fantastic. So let's just, I'm not closing comments, keep talking, but I just want to focus in on the last assignment. Your last assignment is pretty small. But I really want you to think about everything that you've done over the last 6 weeks. And I want you to think about goals. And so Nicole's already thinking about goals. I want to set a couple of annual goals for yourself. Now, some of you guys, like Tony was saying, it's not all her decision. She doesn't get to make these decisions. So maybe one of her goals is to present a plan to her director. Or, maybe one of your goals is to rearrange the furniture. It's fine. Your goals can be small. They don't need to be grand goals. If you do have more authority, then you can definitely go big, but I don't want to put too much pressure on you. And yes, there are lots of Facebook pages. I want you to make sure that you use all the resources that we've been posting on the website. And if you're not part of the Vermont Youth Services Roundtable, definitely get in touch with me. I can add you to it on Facebook, and there's tons of great conversations going on there, and it's completely secure. I personally approve everyone who gets onto that board. So there's no strangers, no one from outside of Vermont, no trustees. So you can say whatever you want and get really helpful advice. So if you are in the position to look at your long-range plan, you can definitely talk a little bit about how you might want to add this. This is supposed to be helpful for you. So if you need an excuse to look at your long-range plan, definitely use it. You want to think a little bit about how you're going to evaluate. Schools call them SMART goals or measurable goals. So don't just set goals for yourself that are really open-ended, like, I'll do better with the teens. That's just not going to help you. You need something that's measurable, something that you can show to your director or to your trustees and say, look, maybe your goal is to get to do 12 programs in the next year. And then you can show it off at the end. See, look, I did 18 programs this year. I met my goal and I actually exceeded it, which is really great. So you want to have a plan for evaluating your goals. And then I want you to come up with where you're going to go for help. And I want you to make sure that you look into these Facebook groups. I want you to think about things like the listservs. I'm definitely a resource if you'd like. You guys are resources for each other. Just think about who you're going to call if you get into a bind, if you get into a funk, if you feel like nothing's going your way. Where do you want to go? If you have ideas for supports that I can help create for you, definitely let me know. I am open to ideas. I know it's hard. Geography is tough around here, and everyone has, a lot to do. So I totally understand. So if you have ideas for things that I can do to help you, speak up. And then I want you to think at the very end, how will teen services be handled when you're not available? Some of you guys work full-time, some don't. Some of you guys are one-person libraries, but I know you get sick. Sometimes you go on vacation. How are teens going to be? How are you going to make sure that teens are getting the help they need and the support they need when you're not there? Are you going to train your staff, your volunteers? Are you going to have maybe some passive supports for them so that they can do things? Are you going to have somebody else who helps you with programming? What are you going to do? And think about, not just Reader's Advisory, but also what happens if, 25 teens, barrel into the library after school and you're not there? How is that going to be handled? And is there someone else who can handle it? And if not, what are you going to do about it? And because once you get teens in the library, you don't want to scare them away. So you want to make sure that the rest of the library is supportive. So just think about it. These may not be, perfect answers, but I do want you to think about it because it's something, even as a teen librarian in a big urban library, I always worried about that. I'm going on vacation for a week and I tell my teens, I'm on vacation. These are the nice people to talk to, that person and that person, go to them if you need help and make sure you behave yourself when I'm gone. And that's not ideal. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable, that it's part of their library. So
can I ask?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question that I've been wondering about. When I used to volunteer at a library in New Hampshire, and the circulation desk at that library was predominantly, almost exclusively run by volunteers.
Yeah.
Which freed up the librarian and the assistant librarian to do so many other things. And that doesn't happen at all at our library. The one I'm in now,
Yep.
And there's been a great deal of resistance to even talking about that. It's like, nope, that can't be done. It's not okay. We don't do that. And I just wondered how many other libraries use volunteers in that way. Because if you have volunteers doing that repetitive circulation, then that frees you up to do incredible things.
It's so true. Well, one of your classmates says they're control freaks. Scared of mistakes. Yes, definitely.
But everybody makes mistakes.
I know. I think it depends. I have never worked in a library that used volunteers at the circ desk. Wendy says privacy policies are a problem. Sasha says that volunteers are at the circ desk all the time. Paige says volunteers are only allowed to shelve. Sarah, you guys have volunteers at the front desk, yeah? Okay. So circ desk downstairs, but not upstairs. A volunteer coordinator helps a lot. Yes, that's true. See, one of the things about volunteers that no one ever talks about is that volunteers are really, they're a challenge to manage, and there is a lot of training. And once you train them, if they leave, as volunteers tend to do, that's kind of lost resources. So that could be part of it. Angel says she has volunteers at her front desk. So I guess, if there's nobody to supervise, that could be part of the challenge. I don't know. That sounds like maybe the board doesn't want somebody doing that. But
actually, the board does in my situation. But the director is just absolutely adamantly against it.
Interesting.
And if he's the only one there Monday through Friday except for when I'm there on Fridays, and I'm the only one there on Saturdays. And if you're busy at the desk, that's what you're doing. And then all the other stuff that you want to do doesn't get done. Like planning and implementing and.
That's hard, yeah. Being stuck at the desk is tough. Someone asked if you had self-checkout. I doubt it, right?
No.
There are very few self-checkouts in Vermont. Nicole says her issue is that I have one room, no place for me to hide from patrons and volunteers. That's so true, Nicole. A lot of libraries in Vermont have that same problem. So if you're in the building, you are on. So there is nowhere for you to go to hide. So if there was a volunteer there, it's not like they would stop asking you questions. And that's tough. Yeah, you can't do programs if you're checking out books. Yeah, so it's tough. It is a lot of work to train them. And like Paige is saying, it's a double-edged sword. It frees up staff, but if the volunteers aren't well trained, then you have to be there babysitting them, which is tough. I think, or actually that was Sasha. I think it's tough to decide. So it's possible that your director has had bad experiences with volunteers in the past. It's possible that it hasn't been worth it. If you have bad volunteers or if you have unreliable volunteers, then it can be tough because you have to be there, standing by them the whole time, making sure they're doing things right. And Sasha says our director is frustrated all the time, but won't take the time to train them correctly. Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's the sticking point. People talk about volunteers all the time as if it's so easy, but volunteers are hard work, and it can be you have to manage them, and that takes a lot. Yeah, exactly. Paige is saying if you're counting on them to do circulation and they don't show up. Definitely. If you've had problems with no-shows, it is so frustrating. Yeah, if they are scheduled to shelve, that can be done later. But if they're scheduled to work the desk, then that can be really frustrating. I think there are definitely pros and cons to it. But I think you make a good point, Tony, that you could be freed up every once in a while by having a volunteer.
Well,
I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I think that there are things that, keep getting on his to-do list that don't get addressed because he runs out of time every day. There's
Right.
only so many hours and there's the repetitive tasks. And
Sure.
I don't know. My other job, I'm the volunteer coordinator at a hospital, and I have 150 volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the training piece of it, but some of them are like really amazing.
Yeah.
And so reliable and get so much done. And
well, one of the benefits of being in a small town is that people don't tend to disappear. So if you're in a big city, volunteers tend to disappear. They're coming in because they're court ordered. Whereas in a small town, it's mostly retirees who are just interested in helping out. So if you can find some like reliable volunteers, then I don't see why not. He obviously has some control issues, but you know, everyone handles their libraries a little bit differently. Oh, Nicole's a good point. Trustees are reluctant to have someone else being the face of the library. That's something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Being the face of the library is a big deal. And this is something I talk to my teen volunteers about all the time. If they volunteer for me and they're not working the front desk, they're just helping with programs, I always tell them, you reflect me. So if you behave badly, if you forget to show up, if you do something, that's all going to come back on me. And it's true, like if you're a one-person library and there's a volunteer there, making decisions and being the face of the library, that may not be what they want. Or if you have one bad experience can really put you off of it. Yeah. And of course, everyone wants to hire more people. Wouldn't that be lovely I think every library in the country wants more space and more staff. I don't think there's a single one that is overstaffed and has too much space. But it's tough. It's very, very hard. I think, we brought up some really some big issues. There are a lot of issues for it, but, it could be weighed out with the positives. So if you craft a really good argument, you could sway him, or maybe not. I don't know. But I think that Wendy's saying her library is fairly new and they already want more space. See, I told you, every single library wants more space. It's so true. I know I was over in Waterbury and they're talking about their brand new sparkly building, and they're already complaining that there's not enough shelf space. They haven't even moved in. I was laughing so hard. It's so true. We all want more space. So I think the volunteer issue, it's something that it's going to have to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. But if you understand the drawbacks, then maybe he'll be sympathetic. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be nice to have some dedicated time to do your programming and to do other things. I know that I never got anything done when I was even just working on the reference desks, just answering questions. I wasn't even checking things out. I was just helping people in the children's room, and it was just a disaster because everyone wanted something all the time, and it can just, yeah, it's it's good to be busy, but it's tough. So these are things to think about. When you're talking about your goals, some of those might have caveats, like you might need extra time to do some of this stuff. And, like Nicole was saying, if you don't have space to go and hide and plan, that sometimes that's just not going to happen when the library is open. Some librarians, some single-person librarians have negotiated with the trustees to get hours outside of when the library is open, and has been Bree in Westford has it I think it's 3 or 4 hours a week where she works when the library is closed, which is pretty awesome. But that's expensive, and I'm not sure every library is prepared to do that. All right, the chat box is filling up with ideas about weeding. Yes, space weeding, definitely a good solution. Yes, some days are going to be easier than others. Some days you're going to go in and be like, oh my gosh, everything needs to go. And some days you're going to be a little bit more sentimental. Sometimes it's good to choose a time of year when you're going to be quiet or at a loss for things to do. And that's a good time to weed when you don't have other things distracting you. On the other hand, I used to like to weed in the summertime when it was psycho busy because everything was checked out. And that meant that I could look at the books that were left on the shelf. So it really depends. It depends on your library, and you got to take it one step at a time, and just see what you have. You all have very small spaces, so it's really important to weed. Every book that comes in, you got to make room for it somewhere. So it's very, very important. All right, so you've got your assignment. We've gone over what we've done. What do you guys? Any other questions, comments? Things you need from me?
I would like to be added to the
Hey, Sharon.
Facebook.
Yes, absolutely. That was Tony.
Yes,
Hey, Sharon.
thank you.
Thad,
Can you
yeah?
hear me, Sharon? Oh, I was just going to say, I did my snack and study for the last 3 weeks prior to Thanksgiving,
How was
and
it?
it actually worked out really well. I have some kids that show up and they actually have done their homework after they eat. Yeah, I know. I've had second graders all the way up to ninth, so it's a range. And that what's interesting is they start talking about teachers in school and their memories of the school, elementary versus high school, and pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So again, it's a range of kids, which I planned on.
That's excellent. It can be
Yeah.
tough to have a range, but it sounds like you're having a good, appropriate conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the tricky part.
Always. I think they
That's
self-monitor.
It's always good to have a grown up there to just make sure. All right, I'm going to turn off the recording.